So today I'm going to talk about my pathway through my healthcare career and how I got where I am now. So initially, years ago, my first job ever in healthcare was a home health aide. I remember looking online. I knew I wanted to enter into the field, but I was a teen mom. So I got pregnant my senior year in high school, and I did. I got accepted into FAMU. My goal was to go to FAMU, get my bachelor's in nursing, and go through the nurse practitioner program. That was my goal. I ended up getting pregnant my senior year, and I chose not to leave. I chose not to leave. I chose to stay home. So that, for me at the time, that definitely shaped my decisions and how I went along in my journey in healthcare. Had I went to FAM straight out of high school, went straight into it, um, I wouldn't have went the way that I'm going to tell you I end up going. But I did. I took a slower route, and I'll tell you along the way what motivated me to go to the next thing, why I did what I did, how I started, what I think, what I suggest, and what I usually tell people when they ask me. Um, I do feel like along the way, in a sense, it did work for me. I did end up reaching my goal. But just to tell you a little bit about my backstory, so I knew I wanted to go into healthcare. I started off as a home health aide. It was not anything that was licensed. That was more so just my title with this company. I found the home health care agency at the time, and they hired me. I had no experience, and they hired me, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. So I end up remember meeting this couple, going to this house, meeting this couple and their daughter, with a representative from the company, maybe like a director for this company, introduced me to this family, and to discuss their needs. My job was just more so to be like a companion, help them the meals that are prepared, help them prepare the meals, make sure they ate, make sure they remember to take their medication, helping them get dressed for bed. I was not supposed to do any of the hands-on stuff as far as helping them shower, helping them bathe. It was more so just like companionship. One of them had dementia, so making sure they did not leave out of the house, go walking down, elope. And that's what I did. But what I did find is I end up doing a lot of clinical things because with this couple having dementia, there was no way that I could sit with this couple and not help them do other things. I was not trained to do that, but I ended up falling into it. This woman, she did need help with showering, toileting. She she probably could have been a candidate for a higher level of care because they needed it. And I only was supposed to come in and take care of her, but I ended up taking care of her and her husband because they both were kind of one and the same. They both were at a place where they had dementia and they both needed help. So I ended up helping both of them. I wasn't supposed to. That's just how it happened. I would show up to work, and that's just how it happened. I was working 12-hour days, 5 days a week. It was like 7 a to 7 p. And being a young girl, I was making good money. To me, I felt like it was good money. It was more than I had ever made. So I was doing that, and then somebody said, "Hey, why won't you be a CNA?" And I was going to the community college at the time, and I didn't think about being a CNA. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna look into that. So I looked into it, and I was like, hey, I'm not going to school for 3 months. I'm already at the community college, at the state college, working on my AA degree so I can apply to a nursing program. And I found out that I did not have to go to CNA school, that I could challenge the test. So what I did was I looked at the qualifications. Um, I looked at the requirements. I looked at everything that I needed to study, and I read up, I studied, and I practiced the skills in my mom's living room. I did that for like a week, and I was just looking at each skill and I was just practicing. And I was practicing with my daughter on the couch, and then I felt like, hey, they're using wheelchairs, they're using bedside rails. I've never physically put my hands on this equipment. Maybe I should go take a class. So they had like these, I'm not sure if you want to call them refresher courses, but it was like maybe like test prep classes. If I find the correct name for it, I'll put it in the video. But I end up paying for a class. I end up finding one for like, I think, $300 back then for like 2 weekends, for a Saturday and a Sunday. And it might have been like from 8 to 12 or something like that. It wasn't all day. And there were wheelchairs there. There were blood pressure cuffs. There was a sink there to practice hand washing. And it was just all the skills that would be on the test. We got to practice with that equipment, and with the dummies, putting them in a wheelchair, pivoting them, bath. I was able to practice on um, the dummies and the dummies at the school, as well as touch the equipment, which was really helpful to me. I did that, the class, for the first weekend, the second weekend, and then like a week of just kind of looking on YouTube. And I went down to the city close by. I scheduled my exam. I took my written portion and I passed it. And I remember having to go in for part two. Oh, I was so excited when I passed the first part. I went in for part two, which was in the back of the building, and it was like a skills lab. And then I had to perform the skills, and somebody watched me. And I passed. I left, drove back home, told my mom I passed. Boom, I was a CNA, I was licensed. So what happened was, from there, I started applying for jobs. I looked for CNA jobs. I went in very quickly. I got a job. It was a it was a post acute rehab. So people would get out of the hospital. These were hospital discharges, and these people couldn't necessarily go home straight from the hospital. These people needed some type of intermediary care before they actually went home to receive home health, because maybe they still needed some type of rehab, PT, OT, to be able to walk, to maybe strengthen anything in the upper body with OT. They had something where they needed, or maybe they still needed antibiotics, and nobody was at the house necessarily to give them the antibiotics. So for whatever reason, they were in this post-acute rehab, very busy. I learned so much there. So half of the building was rehab, real rehab, and the other half of the building was long-term care. I noticed a lot that people in the post-acute rehab, they didn't always go home. So when there was a bed that opened up, they were able to go and actually become a resident in the other half of the facility. I did that, and then what happened was I started seeing people in a nursing home that were nurses, that were RNs, and then some that were LPNs. And I would always go to their cart during med pass, and I would just ask them questions. What do you like about the job? What's hard about the job? What is this? What is that? I was very inquisitive. I wanted to go in the room when they were straight casting. I wanted to learn as much as I could. I was fascinated by the job. So I was definitely in a great place at that moment, um, to be able to say, hey, is this really what you want to do? Very hard work, but I was excited for it. So I decided, okay, I had never thought about going for LPN. And in that moment, I decided to go for LPN because at this time I'm making money. So as I became a CNA, I made more money than when I was a home health aide. And I felt like at the time, I'm going to go for LPN over RN, because while I'm doing my prereqs, it's such a selective program. I was nervous about not being able to get in, and then I would have to sit out. I felt like I wanted to start racing the clock. I wanted to just hurry up and get this done. So I looked up LPN. Well, I noticed at the community college that I was at, there was still a process of getting in. It was still just as competitive as the RN program. So a lot of the people at the job were saying, hey, I went to a private school. That way, there's no wait. I went to a private school. So what happens with a private school is you pay your money, you get in. And that's just simply what it was. So I chose to go LPN because I just wanted to pay my money and I wanted to get in. Um, so I went to a school. It might have been, it might have been like a Kaiser, um, and they had different things that they offered. So when I went into the school, I liked the school. I was like, okay, yes, this is the place for me. Toured the school, liked the school, um, and I started. I went in May and graduated that next year in June. So it was about a 12-month program, and it was intense. It was very intense. And I remember going through the program and going through different areas like peds. I don't even remember how the LPN program was set up, but it was different rotations. And before you can get to your next rotation, you had to test out. And I just remember it being so difficult. I didn't really I they told me that nursing school was a lot of work when I was asking the people at work, the nurses at work, but I had no idea that it was going to be that much work. It was a lot of work. It's a lot of studying. Um, I was young though, so I did it. I did it. I was passing. I got out of school. I think I used the U World to study, and I did the questions, and I graduated in June. It was crazy. I got my authorization to test shortly after, and I took my boards. I passed. My license went live very quickly. It was like the next month. Um, and on my birthday, I had got a job. My first job. I walked into the place that was not far from my house. I walked in, and she gave me an opportunity, and it was at a nursing home, in a short-term rehab, not as busy as the one I was working when I was a CNA, but I went to a place closer to home, and I got the job as an LPN. I remember the first day on the cart. They were supposed to train me, and the manager, the unit manager, she was training me. She was an RN. I was an LPN. It was my first day on the job, and she left me. She left me. Um, at LPN school, when we were doing our clinicals, we learned how to do the med pass and the rights to medication. Just the things that we needed to when we got in the real world in the job on our own, that we knew what to do. So I had an idea what to do, but I was being thrown out to take care of people and be responsible for people without really being trained. But I guess they feel like in school, school was your training. It's not really supposed to be like that though. But she threw me out there. I had G-tubes, I had wound care. I think I had 20 rehab patients. They were going back and forth to therapy. There was three. I was just like, this is a lot. I remember being so frustrated, saying, I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit. I like, this is not for me. I didn't sign up for this. I remember being so upset. Um, I didn't quit though. I just had a bad day. My first day, and it was a bad day, and that was my introduction into being a nurse. And what I noticed was that's how that was a lot of people's story. They just threw me out there. They just threw me out there. I ended up talking to the DON. I told her my feelings, and she took me under her wing. She took me under her wing, and she taught me that place in and out. She did. And I met some really strong nurses along the way. Older women. If I was in my early 20s, my early 20s, they were had to been in like maybe their late 30s, and they really took me under their wing. Some women in their 40s with children my age, and they really took me under their wing, and they showed me everything that they knew. They took their time. And I became a really strong nurse. I would say after a year doing that, when people see how strong of a nurse I had become, they say, "Hey, why won't you do agency nursing?" So I said, "Okay, what's agency nursing?" They got me connected with a few agencies in my city, and it put me in a position where I didn't have to have a full-time job. Where after my year of experience, I was literally able to go to any nursing home that had a need in the city. I was able to go to um, that's how I ended up getting to corrections nursing. I was able to go out of the city and go to different prisons. I was able to go to the reception center, work at the hospital there. I was able to do different things. Like agency gave me a large range of experience. I was able to do rehab, hospice, behavior health, um, home health, more rehab, Brooks Rehab. I was able to do a lot of different things. So it gave me a lot of exposure, hence more experience. So as I went to these places, I met more people, and I started seeing like, hey, these RNs are making money and I'm tired. I'm really tired. I felt like as it wasn't a feel like I knew as an LPN, I would look at my workload and then I would look at their workload, and the workload was different. And so was the responsibility. Now, because I was an LPN at the time, I wasn't really exactly sure um, what they did. I was just on the outside looking in, and what they did just seemed like it was just less work. I honestly felt like the RN did nothing. I felt like I did all the dirty work, all the heavy work, and anything that they did not want to do. I felt like it got delegated to me. And I was like, you know what? I want to be an RN. This is what I need to go back to do. And plus, they're making the big bucks, and I feel like we're working side by side. And they're making all the money. They're making like $10, $12 more an hour. So I said, hey, I need to go. I need to go back to school. I need to go back to school. I'm burned. Well, what happened was I got so comfortable for the first few years, instead of me going straight in for LPN and then immediately going straight to RN. I just got comfortable because I was making money and I was having a good time. I was new. It was new to me. I felt that rush. My adrenaline was going. Um, I got comfortable. Before I knew it, 5 years had passed by, and I was an LPN. 5 years had passed by, and from 5 years, it was really 5 years because by the time I got my RN, graduated from RN school, I had been an LPN for 5 years. So when I chose to go back to school, it was about 4 years into my LPN. I found the school, and I had my prereqs. I think I was at 58 credits with the community college, and I think I just woke up one day and said, I'm tired. Like, these girls getting money. And I think what made me realize it is when I was working to the prison, um, I might have been, ooh, this was way back then. I might have been making maybe 30, and they might have been making like 45. And I was like, that's a big difference. $10, $15, that's a really big difference. So I ended up going to another school. I was like, I'm not waiting to be accepted. I'm not fighting with these girls to get into this program. So at that point, I had decided I'm going to go to another private school. Um, and I did. I got accepted. I had to take an entry level. I had to take some type of entry test to get in. I did exceptionally well. I got in. I tested. I scored well. I went into the program, and from that program, it took another year. So LPN to RN took a year. I got my RN, and I decided, hey, I'm moving out of state. So I ended up moving out of state. And upon me moving out of state, I had set myself up in the place that I live now. I moved out here in May, yeah, May that year. And I say by August, I had taken my state boards and passed them on the first try. Um, I do not remember what I used, but whatever I used, I felt like it was very helpful. I probably can go back through my email and figure out what I used. I'm sure it's still there. And it did, it helped me. I passed it and I was happy. Well, when I got out here, I seen these girls out here and they're working, and the average girl had a master's. And it was inspiring. It really was. It was really inspiring. And it put another type of fire under me. Um, it was very encouraging. So I decided to go back again because I had my 2 year degree. And where I'm from, all you need is a 2 year degree to do anything that you wanted to do. Well, the place that I moved, not the same story. Um, you had to have a bachelor's at minimum. A lot of the hospitals were magnet. A lot of the jobs they just wanted you to have a bachelor's. So I ended up applying to one of the larger hospitals, and I was given an offer upon me agreeing that I would have my bachelor's degree within 2 years. So that was something that motivated me, where I didn't have to feel like I needed the motivation, because the motivation was, hey, you only have 2 years to get this bachelor's degree, or you're out of here. We're a magnet status hospital. You have to have your bachelor's. So I end up enrolling into a school, and the school I enrolled into for my bachelor's, I end up getting a 50% off discount for my tuition, because they have a preferred employer list. So I was able to get 50% off my tuition, which was really good. And I end up going through that program, and I really should have finished that program sooner. It took me about 15 months. I really could have did it in 9 months. Um, the distractions started getting heavy. The closer I started getting to my end goal, the more I started feeling like a little bit more resistance. Um, I had some trying seasons. And I felt like I was it felt like an uphill battle after a while. I did have help along the way. There were people there. It was time while I was in a relationship. I did have help with tuition, with books. There was help along the way, but it did make it did make my journey a little hard. Um, because it's very weighty doing things by your own power. It's very hard. And I just started really getting burnt out. So you get this energy, and you're going, and you're going, you're going, and you're achieving your goals, and you're just going from level to level to level, accolade to accolade. And I'm just like, I'm tired, I'm burnt out, I'm getting weak, okay, I'm getting weary. And it's because it's only so far that you can go on your own power and your own might. Like, that energy, it runs out. It really does. And I wasn't seeking God along that path at at all, really. I really wasn't. I was just, this is what I wanted to do, and this is what I was going to do. Um had I sat down and talked to God and asked God, a lot of things would have just really went it would have went different. So as I was transitioning into my bachelor's degree, I finally got it. I ended up getting it after about 15 months. And I sat with that, and I decided I wanted to do other things along the way. So now more time has elapsed. Still a mother, still a mother. Still have the stresses of life. I wanted to buy a house. I wanted a new car. I wanted to travel. I did. I did those things. I did. By the grace of God, I did them, and it was still very unfulfilling. It was still very unfulfilling because you do the things that you feel like you want to do, and you don't always do the things that God wants you to do or the way that He wants you to do them. People always ask me, should I go for LPN or should I go straight for my RN? And for me at the time, um, it worked for me. I felt like I didn't want to sit out for 2 years. I needed money now. And I felt like even when I went for my RN, I felt very thankful that I went for my LPN first, because I felt like I was able to use the money at the time to help support me through school. I was able to work on the weekends, even though I had help, because that was my situation at the time. I did feel like I had leverage, and I was in a really good position because I was using my check from me being an LPN um, on the weekends while I went to school during the week. Um, but looking back on it now, I would tell my younger self, if my younger self asked the person who I am today, what do you think I should do? For one, I really think you should pray and ask God what you should do. But if it was just wise counsel, and I would just really say, hey, I really think that you should just go for it. I don't think that you should wait. Um, I know people have children. I had a child. That's why I did it that way. Um, I felt like I wasted. I felt like some of the time was wasteful, because when I got to a place in my career where I was comfortable, um, I lost my fire to go and do what the end goal was. I was taking my time, because when you feel like something is working for you in that moment, you don't change another way. Sometimes, a lot of times, it takes us to get really uncomfortable for us to get up and do what we say that we're going to do. We have to get uncomfortable if something goes wrong. A lot of times, we don't just keep going, going, going until we're finished. We pause along the way. And I'm not saying that a pause is necessarily a setback. I think in my pauses, it taught me a lot. It did. It really taught me a lot. And then my pauses, I realized a lot of my pauses were people, places, and things. And we know that the enemy will send you people, places, and things to kind of slow you down. He'll send you the wrong, he'll send you the wrong man or woman. He'll send you the wrong friends. He'll send it dipped in chocolate and wrapped in a bowl. He'll just send everything that looks like it's right in that season, and it's really things just to slow you down. Um, the places that you hang out with, opening up your phone on social media, always scrolling, getting caught up before you know it. You should be studying, or before you know it, you should be preparing for something that's supposed to make you better. And then before you know it, hours are gone, and all you did was just kind of thumb through the phone. And I got to a place where I just started noticing I'm wasting too much of my time. And I was wasting too much of my time because God I didn't have God present and seated in my life the way that I should have had him present and seated. So things had to be redefined and rearranged in my life, and I thank God for doing that, for showing up for me in that way to show me what was important. And then also just kind of seeking validation. Sometimes you get on social media and you don't want to be left out. You want to do what other people are doing. You want to be on the bandwagon. You want to go to places where everybody else are taking their pictures. You want to buy the things that everybody else is buying. But when you sit back and look at it, I sat down for 3 years once I got to my master's. I wasted time. I'm not going to say wasted. Um, I paused. I paused during that time in between to do what I felt like I wanted to do. Because at that time it was about this is what I want to do. So what I started noticing is, hey, kid, you depend too much on people. And I know that God uses man to help man. He does. He uses people to bless you. Um, but I was forgetting where my help comes from. Your help comes from the Lord. I was really forgetting where my help came from. So when I was seeking help, I was depending on a person or people in that moment to be able to help me. And in my head, I was like, well, if they don't do it, it won't get done. Big mistake, very big mistake. So when I started putting God in the center, I started I started asking what I felt like could be some dangerous some dangerous requests. Um, who to move? Who needs to go? Show me, reveal to me. Um, God, if you move this person, I promise I never go back again. God, if you do this, I'll do this. So then you start making these promises, these pleas with God, these covenants. And God is a covenant keeper. You better know it. And I was asking God to show up in my life, for things to get done. And He did. And there was growing pains with it because you don't even know what you be asking for. So much needed, though, so much needed, because it was a point in time in my life where I felt like I could not do it if I didn't, if so and so was not here, if I didn't have such and such, or if this was not the way that I envisioned it to be. But God showed me, let me show you, I'll move everybody, and this is just gonna be me and you. And let me show you how I get things done. He's such a protocol breaker. And that let me know, it taught me that when God has called you to the arena to do something, He don't send you empty handed. He gives you everything that you need. And if I would have, people say they know God, but if I would have knew that version of God back then, the pauses that I took in my life, I would have never took those pauses, or the things that I did, I would have done them differently, because I would have known. I would have made no mistake about it. I would have known that God was my source, and that anybody can get up and leave today or tomorrow and take everything with them, and it was still going to get done. Because if He told me I was going to do it, and if He called me to do it, it's no devil in hell that can come in between me and what God said that He has for me. I just had to, I had to be obedient. And what I started noticing was, once I start allowing Him to pull the people away, and I was participating. So I was using my free will to say, you know what? I submit. I'm gonna do it. You're absolutely right. Move him, move her. I'll stop going there. I'll stop doing this. I'm gonna back off of this. Yes, I'll do it. Yes, I'll do it. Okay, you say go this way. I'm gonna go this way. And through obedience, things start moving smoothly. That things start moving very smoothly. It did not mean that there was never opposition. It did not mean that everything always went the way that I wanted it to go. But it worked out. It worked out. It built me. It made me very resilient, and it gave my daughter something to look at. So I was very transparent. Did I tell her everything? Of course not. But I was very transparent, and I didn't hide much from her. And then I was living right, so it wasn't really a secret in my life. Once I started getting myself to a point where I was living right, it wasn't a secret. Hey, this is life. This is how it goes. This is what I do. This is how I'm going to overcome it. And I just started I started being the example for my daughter, that I should have always been. And she was able to learn from me along the way, which is beautiful. And something else that kept me is I told God, make me the influence for my child that other people try to be for everyone else. And what I mean by that is people get on social media and they're so influenced. And a lot of times by the wrong thing. Oh my gosh, by the wrong thing. That's a topic for a whole nother day. But people get so influenced by the wrong things. People get caught up in what they see. Social media has just become this place where everybody can go be who they want to be, lie about who they are, lie about what they have, lie about their journey, um, hide their pain, or use their pain to monetize inappropriately, um, by exploiting certain things. And it's just kind of like it used to be when I was growing up. You didn't have those. We didn't have that. Like conversation was word of mouth. Like you heard something, you didn't really go to the internet for it. Like you really had to go outside and you really had to talk to people. You had to really be in the field to understand what was going on. Now, um, the kid in Malibu get to find out what's happening, you know what I'm saying? What's happening in the hood. Just all off Instagram, all off, so all off TikTok, all off Facebook. So what happens is you have these outside influences on the app influencing your children. And I told God, allow me to be the influence for my child in my home. Let me give my child something to look at. Lord, make me that person, to model for my child, model behavior. And I'm not saying kids always do the right thing, but I do pray to God about mine. And I decree and declare a thing over my child. And I pray and I use my authority to pray over my child and to pray over myself. And I just allow God to work in my life and move in my life. And I'm just thankful that my child is able to see those things. And she's able to have that example. And a lot of times we try to teach our children, um, you should do this or you should do that. But if you're not what you're telling them to be, a lot of times it's a disconnect. It's such a disconnect. So when I started noticing, I'm telling my child to do this and I'm not really doing that. I need to model some virtuous behavior. So I started changing. I started changing not only for God, but when I changed for God, it benefited my daughter. And I thank God for the struggle. I thank God for everything I endured, the pain that I went through. It built me. It built me. It gave me such a testimony. And it allowed me to show my daughter that you don't have to do this to achieve that. All you got to do is hold up your head to wherever your help is, and that's the Lord. I teach her that. Teach my daughter how to pray. Teach her how to fast. I teach her spiritual things. Reading the Bible, going to church, having a relationship with God. The things that you should be instilling in children anyway. Um, Not allowing her, changing the way I dress, changing the way that I look. Not having dressing modest, just being more modest in my appearance, the way that I talk, the things I discuss, the things. Beginning of the video, I told you I did things that I felt like was best for me at that time. But I also did tell you that I did things that were best for me at the time, but I did not include God. Life could have looked very different had I did things the way that God told me to do. And there were times in my life where God was telling me to do things and I wasn't doing them because I did not believe that I could do things His way. I felt like they had to be done my way because in the physical, that's what made sense to me. What He was saying it didn't make any sense to me. It did not make any sense to me what He was telling me to do, but it worked. I don't play games like that anymore. But I will say that if you have purpose, if God has given you something, do it the way that God tells you to do it. Don't settle for the man, sis. Don't not do something just because you have children or you have multiple children or well your situation wasn't mine or you had more money or somebody else's credit was this. Everybody, God knows your situation, but when He calls you to purpose, you have to understand the purpose that He has for you. That's where your wealth lies. Your wealth does not lie.
in what you want to do, unless you have a desire to do, unless the desire that, unless your purpose creates a desire, like, hey, I want to do this, and God has already told you that that's your purpose. My prayer for women is that you guys pray for purpose. Find out what He has called you to do, and when God has called you to do something, for one, your wealth lies there. It's fulfilling because you're serving Him, you're in a relationship with Him. Um, He's going to make it rich and add no sorrow with it. The pain that's going to be associated with you doing it by your own power and your own might, it does not happen when you walk with Him. Also, too, let God choose the people that He's going to put in your life to supply your needs. A lot of times we like to choose the people to bless us. We like to say how this person is going to bless us, or what we want this person. We like to position people, places, and things in our life, and we like to determine how they're going to serve us. Men will let you down every time. People let you down every time. God is not a God that He's not a God that fails. So I encourage you to pray for your purpose and understand that God gives us destiny helpers. So when He has called you to the arena to do whatever He has called you to do, God is everywhere at all times. He's all knowing. He knows everywhere that you're going to struggle along the way. But when you do what He tells you to do and you're obedient, when it comes to that time when you need the money, when you need the light bill paid, when you need the car fixed, when the tire blows out and you need it changed, when you need grace, He's going to send you the right tow truck. He's going to send you the right person. He's going to send you the right entrepreneur that's already doing what He has called you to do, that's going to give you the free game. He's going to put you in contact with a grant writer. They're going to be your friend. You know that they wrote grants, and they're going to write you a grant and lend you $24 million on this kingdom project that God gave you to do. He's going to send you the right teacher when you were borderline on that grade and she just has a heart for you and she don't know why, and I'm gonna help her and I'm gonna tutor her and I'm gonna show her and I'm gonna give her the grace to get through. He's gonna have the right person sitting at HR to be able to pull your application when you need a job at a certain point. He's gonna be able to have people just calling you, giving you back money that they owe you, or just somebody calling you and say, hey, you was on my mind. Um, here's $400. That's the type of God we serve. He's going to set up, secure, and prepare your destiny helpers along the way. You're not going to have to figure nothing out. All you got to do is make sure that you wake up and you do whatever it is He told you to do. So my prayer for you is that don't do things by your own power and by your own might. You'll run out of energy. Don't choose the people that you want to help you. Let God choose the people that you want to help you, and make sure that you hear Him clearly. I pray for you that if you don't know your purpose, that you pray to God and ask Him for your purpose, because your wealth lies in your God-given purpose. That's what He's called you here to do. That's what your existence is here for. So I really pray that you look at my mistakes, you look at where I fell short in my story, and you use that as the cheat code to kind of overcome it. So if this is your first time ever hearing anything like this, then you can just go straight to God and ask God for whatever it is that you need, and ask God what is it that He wants you to do. What has He called you to do, and all things will be added unto you.